Hi everybody, it's Claudia from Create with Claudia. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today I'm doing a little show and tell. You can see a sneak peek behind me, and I'm going to show you how to make one of the blocks, so stick around. Today I'm showing you my row by row quilt. This is the February project for the 2022 Island Batik Ambassador program. This month it's a blog hop, so everybody's doing a row by row, and we designed our own patterns. So I urge you to go check out all of the ambassadors. There's a link in my article to all of their articles. This was lots of fun. I've never done a row by row quilt, so the fabric that I was assigned, Island Batik assigns all of the ambassadors different fabric lines, and they're all new ones. This is called Interurban. It's designed by Kathy Engel, and it should be in stores in February of 2022. The browns are just gorgeous. They're golds, they're dark browns. There's like a chocolate brown. There's some paler browns, some tans, some beiges. It's just a beautiful, beautiful line. It's not a color pattern I normally work with, but I absolutely fell in love with it. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that I love their golds. And so I was really happy when I saw these golds. If you watch my videos, you know I'm a little space challenged when it comes to shooting some of my videos. And I love to show you the whole quilt. I'm actually going to show you a couple pictures on the screen as well. But here's the whole thing. A little bit of it, unfortunately, is cut off. I wanted to give it a more modern look. The fabrics, and I'll give you close-ups of them, are very graphic. They have some beautiful graphic patterns in them. There are even some blacks. I forgot to mention a couple little blacks as well, like smoke, I think is what they're called. But again, this is my row by row Interurban quilt. The fabric was designed by Kathy Engel. It's Island Batik, and it's available in stores February 2022. And stick around, I'm going to show you now how to make one of the blocks. Specifically, we're going to make that block. It is as easy as it can be, and it really adds a fun sort of modern touch. Okay, I'm back, camera has been readjusted, and I'm ready to go on the block. So what you need to make one of these blocks, I call them double arrow blocks. They're 12.5 inches when they're not finished. So they make a 12-inch block when they're finished. Nice size, so you don't need a whole lot of them if you're making like a lap quilt. The brown quilt that I showed you a minute ago, that is a lap size quilt. But let me show you what we need. Okay, you need 2 pieces of fabric, and these are all I'm still using. Luckily, I had a few scraps left over of from that Interurban line. You need 2 rectangles cut 6.5 inches by 9.5 inches. You need 2 rectangles cut 3.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And you need 8 squares cut 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. That is it. And now I'm going to adjust the camera one more time and show you how to make this block. All right, so here you can see all of my pieces laid out. You can this really shows up this gorgeous sort of chocolate brown with the lighter brown. Shows you some of that gorgeous graphic print in one of these lines. And this one is the same. It's just a much more like a tan version or wheat version. So the first thing we need to do, we're just going to move those aside a little bit. And here are those 3.5 inch squares, and on the back of each one you're going to draw a diagonal line. Now I'm using a pencil. I probably would use a water soluble. I'm just going to do it really well. For this one I'm going to show you really dark, make it really dark. I normally would never make my line this dark, just in case it would show through. But there you can see I drew my diagonal line. Let me just hold it up closer to the camera. This is very easy sewing. And I'm going to do that on the rest of these, and like I said, I'll make them very light just so I can barely see it, and that'll help me out. All right, so I have done these. They are ready to go. Now, all you need to do, this is very easy, is you're going to take all of your pieces. I'm just going to pile these up here. And the first thing you want to do is right sides facing. Let me get the darker one here so you can see it better. Make sure you have the right side of the fabric. You're going to make like a flying geese unit here. So you're going to put this on here very carefully, line it up on one of the ends, making sure it's all squared up everywhere. And then you're going to sew right on that line, or just a hair to the outside, to this corner. I mean a hair is barely even a thread length, just right along that line. You're going to do that, and then I'll show you what we do when we come back. Okay, so as you can see, you can't even see the stitches because I literally sewed a long string there. Sewed right on that line. You can see it just such a hair. It's hard to explain how light it is. You can really sew on the line. But the next thing you want to do is you're going to fold this back. You're just really quickly going to fold this back and make sure it's nice and even and you don't lose your shape or your size, like so. But then you're going to take your ruler and your rotary cutter and you're going to leave a 1/4 inch on this side and just trim away that excess. Okay, great. You can keep those, make a little half square triangle quilt or something like that. And you're going to fold this back and you're going to press it. And then you're going to add one to the other side. Now I'm going to press this better. I'm just going to finger press this. Normally I would actually press this at my machine. And then you're going to put the one on the other side. Lining it up, making sure it's the diagonal line is in the right direction. I've done that before where you sew it the wrong way and it messes the whole thing up. Just check that it's lined up. And then again, I'm going to sew right on that line. Okay, so here it again. I have sewn on that line. I'm just going to flip this back, make sure it looks pretty good. And yes, it does. See how it lines up nicely along here. Now I'm going to, before I press it, I'm going to trim away that excess. You don't want that excess bulk there when you're making this block. And I should have mentioned at the beginning, with all of my projects, I use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so now I'm going to press this open. I'm going to repeat this with this other smaller block. And actually what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you how to do this, I'm going to repeat it as well with the bigger blocks because you want that sort of arrow on the one end. So again, you would use the same process. You're just going to line it up on that shorter end. Oops. And you're just going to sew down that line. I'm going to do that really quickly just so you can see what it looks like. All right, so here you go. This is how we did it. You see it's on the shorter end, like so. It's going to be your back. I consider this white with the sort of yellow dots as my background fabric. And then I'm just going to trim that excess away, leaving that 1/4 inch. I mean, it's essentially the exact same method. It's just a much bigger piece of fabric. Press that over, and then I would add the other one to the other side, so you would have this brown fabric end up as a point. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the rest of all of my fabrics and get these units ready and for you to see. All right, so I took these over to my pressing service. Let me move these all out of the way. And here we are, we're ready to assemble this block. This unit should still measure 6.5 by 9.5. Hopefully if you did these corners right. You can see mine's just a little bit off there. It's not a big deal. I'm not too worried about it. But you're going to do that, and then I think I'm going to use this one on top. Now you could use the same color if you wanted. I just like to mix it up. I love scrappy quilts. And what you're going to do is sew this smaller flying geese unit to this one on the top. And then let me move this over a little bit. And then you're going to do this one to this one. And then you're going to assemble the whole block. So first what I'm going to do is take this over to my machine and just sew using that 1/4 inch seam allowance. I would probably sew, let me show you the back actually of the block so you can see it. You can see where I've trimmed everything away, and use that point as your guide, because if you sew right on or just a hair above that point, you'll get a nice sharp point. So I am going to do that right now with these two, and then I'll show you how to assemble the whole block. All right, so here are my 2 units of the block. We're going to sew it together on this long seam now. The only seam you really have to worry about is right in here, and you want to make sure your points, if you can, get them nice and sharp, as good as you can. These aren't, I sort of missed these just a little bit, but you know how that goes. I miss a lot of my points. I hate to admit it. So anyway, I'm going to sew these 2 together, and then I'll show you how the whole block ends up looking. All right, so here's my block. It should measure 12.5 by 12.5, and it's easy to do. I think what a fun scrap quilt this would be. You could just make maybe even 1 unit, just go through your scraps. It's a great scrap buster or stash buster, and it looks really, I love it. It's got a real nice modern look to it. So that's my double arrow quilt block. All right, so there you have it. There was my double arrow quilt block. It's the same one used in my row by row quilt. It's my February Island Batik Ambassador Challenge. Here it is one more time. I'll just show you. I love this block. I think it's going to be a great scrap quilt. I'm looking at all my scraps, and I think I'm going to have to make one using this block. And I will show you a picture at the end. I did one in a much brighter palette, just so you can see how it takes on a different life with different colors. Here is my quilt a little bit closer up with some fuzz on it. Here you can see that block. We pull that over. You can see it just a little bit, and you can see hopefully some of those fabrics. I did do a couple close-up pictures. Just gorgeous graphic fabrics in this interurban line. You can see I used some as dividers of my row by row. And all of these blocks are really simple to make, and I will be showing you tutorials over the next couple of weeks, a couple of months actually, on how to do these blocks, and you too can make a row by row like this. If you like quilting tips and lots of free patterns and free tutorials, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I always appreciate new subscribers. Thank you so much. And also while you're at it, ring that bell. That way you're always notified when I have a new video. Thank you so much for watching today, and have a great day.